Greetings, beloved souls. It is Thursday. Welcome to being Omni. I am Hillis, and this is the Trauma to Treasure series. And I just need to make sure if my mic is on. And it is not, which is probably why you guys are getting an echo right now. So, mic is hot. um, so, just welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight as I do some on air adjustments here. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is having a good week. And tonight, I just want to continue this discussion that I've had for the past few weeks about my own personal story of how I gotten to be where I am as this omniresonance architect. But before that, I am going to give a few announcements for those who are watching now or later. And those announcements are coming up in 2 days. 2 days. You can click on the links in the description. But in 2 days, I'm going to be part of the Star Seed Summit on Portal to Ascension, so you guys can check that out. Register is for free. You can donate if you like for that. On the Lionsgate Portal 88, I am going to be doing my Trauma to Treasure virtual event. Link is in the bio for that. If you guys are interested, there's very limited space for that. And yeah, let's get into it. So, like I said, just click on the links in the description for the Starseed Summit, which is this Saturday, and then on the 8th of August, doing the live virtual Trauma to Treasure event. So, let's get into it. So, if you guys have been keeping up with me every week, watching replays, you guys are getting to know me a little bit more, a little bit better, why I do what I do. So if you guys have any questions about that, put those in the comments as well. I'll be checking for those. If you are on Substack, I won't be able to see comments, but I can always look at those later. So the question of the week is, when was the moment spirituality brought you home to yourself? You know, when was that moment? And for me, it took a while. It took a while for me to really understand what spirituality was, how it was evolving in my life. Because at the time, after, especially back in 2008, when relationship, business, all of that was gone, right? And it wasn't until I started being around family more, really understanding what the value of family was, and really understanding that space of family and that support system. And for me, that was the beginning of my journey. It was the beginning of my path. So when spirituality brought me home, it literally brought me home. That was the moment, when I had these tough conversations with my aunt, had these tough conversations with my mom. I was in my early to mid 30s having these tough conversations. And it literally brought me home to be grounded, to be connected to family. And I know everyone doesn't have this. We connect to what we have. And so, with understanding spirituality, there's this broad brush, if you will, that people paint spirituality with. That, oh, well, you have to be this way, or you have to be that way, you have to be a certain way to fit into a mold. But if you guys have been keeping up with my journey over the past few weeks, that there is no one mode, there is no one way. Spirituality is a space to where you honor yourself. Spirituality is a way for you to become grounded in that space and that energy. Spirituality is for you to connect with yourself. That's what spirituality is. It's really understanding your path, understanding your experiences, understanding your lessons, and finding, connecting with that support system to guide you on your way. We have all these tools, all these resources, you know. I'm a spiritual fan. It's like, oh yeah, let me reach in my toolbox and pull something out. That's fine and all. We have these tools, we have these resources. Sometimes we outgrow them. And I've outgrown a lot of the things that I used to do, a lot of practices and tools. And they evolved. I should say I've outgrown them. I should say they evolved, from one to the other. They always took forms and they always took these spaces of transformation just like self. And the real moment for me when I really began to shift, actually there was a few moments, and I think I've mentioned at least one of them before. So the first moment that really brought me back home to family, to my spirituality, that moment that brought me home, it was a time when my aunt and I we were having one of our secret rendezvous where we would just go hang out and do stuff. Didn't have any agenda. We would just do stuff, whether we would go to out for a late dinner or go to Costco or something. But this one particular time, we stopped at Cold Stove Creamery and I got a pint of my favorite ice cream. So we got back to my place, we got upstairs, having a conversation, and she looked at me with a look of concern. And she asked me, "Did you ever think that you were depressed?" And it didn't occur to me because I didn't know what depression was. At this time I'm in my early mid 30s. Had no idea what depression was. I mean, clinically probably was because I lost everything, relationship, business, about to everything, just leaving. And that's when I've really felt the support of family. That's when I really felt that love of family. Know that it was always there. It was always there, but it evolved like everything else. My relationship with family evolved in that moment. And then the next moment, after I got into my spirituality, after I really was in deep in my practice, this was after this was probably about 6, 7 years after that. About 6, 7 years after that moment, another moment occurred to where I invited my mom to come with me to plant medicine ceremony. And for those who've been knowing and following my journey, my mom never made it to that moment with me, to share that moment physically with me. But we had a really good conversation about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. No, it was about 3 weeks before she passed. And she finally understood who I've evolved into. And I was so excited to share this moment with her in the physical space. And that's when I knew. I think I forgot how old I was, but that's when I knew this was what I was meant to do. Because if I can get through to my mom, someone who's been depressed her whole life, someone who was consistently searching for something more her whole life, and she got who I was, And it wasn't just me being her son, it was just me being me being Hillis. And even now at 50, I'm still, figuring out who is Hillis now. I mean, I'm definitely not the same person who I was 2 years ago or 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Definitely not. And through all of this, the one thing that has been consistent is change. The evolution of self is a beautiful thing once you stop to take note or analysis of this. When you allow yourself to take stock, you see and feel the change. And the moment that really, really arrived after my mom passed is I went to ceremony and it was morning and it was a chilly morning, but we were all outside by the fire. And I was the only one who still had on my poncho outside by the fire. Everyone was taking off their ponchos and they were handing them to me, putting them on me, and I was holding ponchos like a arm full of ponchos and shoulders full of ponchos. Sounded like it was a lot, but it was probably like about maybe 6, 7 ponchos around me, on me, some form of fashion. And that's the moment when I really felt unconditional love because my mom was there in spirit and I felt her. And this was just her way of showing me that she loved me and that she was always there for me in that moment. Feeling her warmth and understanding what love really feels like. I know it sounds cliche, but in that moment, that's when spirituality brought me home. It really brought me to that space of really understanding. So while I'm here, I want to hear from some of you guys. What was that moment for you? What was the moment that you realized you were home? Like you realized you were on the path that you were supposed to be walking? What was that moment like for you guys? Because, I can sit here and talk all night, but I won't. And so when we understand those key moments, these markers, these moments of deja vu, because that's what some of this is, especially if you understand the life selection process. If you get often moments, previews of your life, you get to see these moments. And so these moments just enjoying this moment right now, feeling the warmth, feeling the love, feeling all of it, and that's what being omni is. It is being the all, feeling every moment, the good, the not so good, all the emotions, and knowing that everything begins and ends in love. I'm just having this moment right now as I share this, share my life, share my story with all of you guys in this space of remembering, remembering who I am, remembering what's happening, remembering these moments of the reminders of when spirituality brought me home. Because as you guys know, as I shared with you in the previous weeks, at this time of my life, in my 30s, I didn't have a spiritual home. I didn't have a religious home to go to. It was just me living in my day to day, and at that time, house music, was my spirituality. House music was the way for me to deal with life, how to cope with life. I didn't have any drug addictions or anything like that. I mean, I lived a pretty clean life, occasional beer or drinks here or there, but never was what I considered an addict to any degree. Well, well, unless you guys count a borderline sex addiction, but that's a whole other story. And if you guys want to know more, I can talk about that too. But at this time in my life, I mean, I didn't have a strong belief in God. I didn't have a strong belief in religion because of the story that I shared prior about me going to church. My way of living with life in my 30s was understanding what was happening in this transformative space. Me going out listening to house music, me being a gym rat and being in the gym 3-4 times a week, almost 2 hours, and having these, amazing workouts, and really being self-conscious of my body and really being self-conscious in the physical space. That was my anchor at the time. Me being anchored so much in this physical space, that I have at the time, I had a really good job and, could support myself and could do all these things and all these things and all these things and all these things. I was really anchored in this third dimensional space, or, was anchored in that third dimensional space. And it wasn't until I had to talk with my aunt, wasn't until, things began to shift differently. It wasn't till, I was in the hospital, in the emergency room, and all these things. I was like, I got to change my life. But I don't know what to do to change my life. So I, continue to write poetry. I continue to exercise. I continue to ride my bike up and down Lake Michigan. I continue to do all the things that brought me sanity, that brought me peace of mind, until I figured it out. And even though I figured it out, I'm still figuring out more, because there's always more. And this is what you have to understand. Spirituality is an anchor. It's not some sort of external belief that you have. It's not something to grasp onto and say, this is it. This is the thing that's going to change my life. Because guess what? You're going to keep saying that. You're going to keep having these moments of, this is what it is that's going to change my life. But you have to remember, you are the change. You are the change. You are this piece. You are all of this. Okay? But when I had my first plant medicine experience, that changed everything. That changed everything. And I've been saying that a lot throughout this series, and you come to know that you will have these anchor moments. You will have these life-changing moments, these anchors, these pivotal points where everything does change. Your perspective changes, your outlook changes, your mind changes, the way you think, the way you function. It all changes. And that is okay, because spirituality is everything. Spirituality is all things. Being omni is that. Representing the all. Being a part of this greater grand picture, this fractal, this piece of God energy. And I just want you to take this in for a moment before I conclude for tonight. Imagine this moment, being a part of something much larger than yourself. Not being separate, not being a fragment, but being a fractal, a piece of this larger design to experience itself. To experience itself with all things, with all creatures, with all beings. Just imagine the deliciousness of this life, where you get to interact with yourself no matter how frustrated, no matter how doubtful, no matter how unforgiving things may seem. This is part of the orchestration. This is part of this design. The contrast, the conflict that brings sustainability, that brings evolution, that brings the peace, that brings the love, that brings it all. Because you are all. You are this God energy, this fractal, this piece of light that is living within you. And you have forgotten, and I have too. But now it's time to remember. I hope you guys enjoyed that little bit of monologue, that little bit of peace there. But I will conclude with something that I came across the other day. And it needs to be shared. As you all know, poetry is my first love. Always have, always will. It's expression of self, in the space of who I am and what I do. And so I will share with you tonight a very unique poem that is for you, for all, to allow for this space to live within you, to remember the light in you, to remember who you are. Though we are all connected, you are also very, very unique unto self, because there's no one like you. Though we all are a part of this greater whole, you are still unique unto self. Always remember that. And I'll leave with you this very special piece entitled Soul Signature. What is your soul? What do you identify with? What is it you feel? What is your mark? An imprint known to others. From the light given and shared, listening to the voice, feeling the vibration, trusting the creation, understanding the process, an expectation unique to self, rising from the core to take notice, a shift in awareness, a shift in awareness, tongue-tied, a shift in awareness, allowing your soul to speak, knowing this new expression is the true you. Exploration of this new space is bringing new sensations of light. I am expanding consciousness. I am evolving to my higher self. The process shaped and transformed my desires. I am this soul. I am connected to this soul. I am more than my mind perceives. I identify with the energy of creation. I identify with the collective. My experience. My expression is unique to self, yet shared with all. My signature is my light, my vibration. We are beacons for each other. We attract and gather with unified energy. Our signature is one of love. Our soul responds to love. Simply love. And remember, beautiful souls, everything begins and ends in love. Till next week, everyone. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Remember the virtual summit this weekend, the Starseed Summit. Link is in the description. August 8th, live virtual event of Trauma to Treasure event. That link is in the bio as well. And if you feel called, definitely connect in the Soul community or leave a donation. All links in the description below. Love you all. Till next week.